Everybody. This is a special session for tonight. I confused everyone last week saying we weren't going to have webinars except for the Beta 3 group, and then I changed the Beta 3 group to a Wednesday. So I'm glad that we actually have very good attendance in that Beta 3 group tonight. I was talking to an author today who's investigating, coming to a retreat, doing the publishing, doing the promotion programs, and I was telling her that the one trend that I've noticed is that when the authors show up at the webinars and engage, they do a lot better than if they don't. And so I want to thank all of you for showing up tonight on this special session, and I'd especially like to thank Heidi for being able to do this presentation on a pretty short notice. And as I've worked with all you authors and I've watched, the presentations we've had, and I see what people struggle with, I kept on, getting, and this could be my bias, I kept on getting the feeling that, sure, we could get our pages set up and that was no big deal. And, Facebook to me seems pretty self-explanatory, and Pinterest is fairly self-explanatory. And people are kind of up in the air about Google+. But LinkedIn and Twitter, everyone's interested, but I don't think people have a clear idea exactly what to do, how it works. And so rather than spending time on the setup, I asked Heidi to kind of give us a little bit of insight as to, how do we work Twitter? How do we work LinkedIn? What's the point? I can't tell you how many authors have said the same thing as, what's the point of Twitter? And of course, if we were, 12 years old, we probably wouldn't be asking that question. But none of us, none of us quite have that age going for us, and we're all, we all want to engage. We all want to succeed, and it seems like Twitter is got a lot of opportunity for us. And so I really wanted Heidi to give us a little more insight. Now, Heidi, you do have the stage. I see your screen in front of me, and I did hear you. Everyone else is muted up, and I'm going to mute myself back up in a second once I hand the ball over to you, so that the dogs barking won't come through and the cat jumping on my computer and whatever else. Tom is on his way to Chicago. He might even be there by now. I'm not sure. So he won't be here to attend. And again, I really wanted to thank all the attendees for adjusting their schedule tonight and coming along. And I'm really hopeful that we're all going to learn some new insights into how to use two of the main social media accounts. So Heidi, it's all up to you. I'll leave myself unmuted for a moment, and then I'll probably mute back up. So thanks again, everyone, and especially you, Heidi.
Well, Rama, thank you very much for inviting me tonight, and welcome everybody. I'm excited to be here. I'm always excited to be anywhere where I can talk about social media, and in particular, one of my favorites is LinkedIn, and the other one is my very favorite, which is Twitter. So, Rama, you asked the two favorites of mine tonight, so that's really good. I think it'll be helpful to everybody. I want to start off and talk a little bit. We're going to start with Twitter. I actually brought up one of my clients who happens to be in your, I think she's in the Beta 1 group, Mary Garner, and I've been working with Mary now for 2 months. So I wanted to show a few things that I have done for Mary to help her master the social media, especially Twitter and LinkedIn, to show, the potential and the things that can happen. And so we'll start with Twitter. And what I want to do is start with something we really didn't talk too much about the last time. I'm going to go over a lot of the things that we talked about, but in a little more depth, particularly when it comes to Twitter, because you can hear a lot of this stuff on the previous webinars, but I think what happens is you have to hear it a few times before it actually sinks in. And really, not that much has changed since I did the last one, but there are a few things we can do a little bit better and in more depth. The first thing is I want to talk about lists, because I think that we didn't even really talk about lists the last time. And I think that people are very confused about them. I know I was for a long time, because one of the things about lists is they're great to have, but what do you do with them? So I wanted to just show you, first of all, well, I want to tell you, first of all, why you would create a list. Say you wanted to create a list, for instance, for authors or for publishers or graphic artists or PR agents or even bookstores, things that would have to pertain to what you do in your writing sphere. It could be a subject matter expertise. And you find people on Twitter that fit that description. And you want to be able to find them easily again, and maybe you don't remember their name, but you've seen them through maybe other people's tweets or visiting other people's Twitter profiles. So the best way is to actually put them on a list. So putting them on a list is one thing, and then what do you do with that list? And Twitter doesn't really make it easy, even though they give you this great option to create lists. And by the way, you can actually have up to 1,000 lists on Twitter. It used to be only 20, and they've changed it to 100, then 500. Kind of like all of these websites, they realize, these channels realize that people are using it more than they thought, and then they have to increase the amount that they give them, the latitude. So you can actually have up to 500 people on each of your lists. So 1,000 lists times 5,000 people, that would be a lot of people. The average person probably would have 5 lists with maybe 20 to 100 people on them. I have 5 lists, and I think my biggest list is got 150 people. And authors happens to be one of my larger lists on Twitter. Mainly because I work with a lot of authors, and they're my clients. But you'll use the list for different things. Another thing you need to understand is Twitter does not allow you to send a message in mass to any list. So you're probably saying to yourself, well, why would I create a list if I can't communicate with each of them? You can one at a time, like you can with everybody, but not in mass. And they do that to protect the integrity of Twitter and to keep people from spamming people, because that would be the first thing an unethical marketer might do, is create these lists of people and then start spamming them. So Twitter has made it so you can't do that. You can create the list and you can still send one at a time, but you cannot send to multiple people. So one of the things I wanted to show you, first of all, is how to create your list. So we're going to go over to, let's say, Mary doesn't have any lists, so I'm going to go to her profile page, so I'm going to click on me, and it's going to take me to a page that says lists. It says tweets, following, followers, favorites, and lists. Mary currently does not have any lists. She's on lists, but she's not a member, but doesn't have any of her own. So we're going to look at Mary's followers, and we're going to create a couple of lists. We'll just create one just for the sake of it. So here is Bruce Borders, and he's an author. So I want to put him in a list called authors. So you create the list by just clicking on, and let me show you that again to save time. You'll click on the little people icon to the right of his name and description, and a drop-down box comes up, and it says you can tweet to him, you can send him a direct message, you can create add or remove him from lists, and so on and so forth. So we're going to click on add or remove from lists, and we're going to create a list. So you click on create list, you're going to call it whatever it is you want to call it. Now if I had the time, I'd probably not just call it authors. Maybe I'd call it authors and then give it and whatever type of book they were writing, and maybe you could have several lists of authors. Since you can have up to 1,000 lists, you could say authors in the paranormal space, you could say romance authors, you could say fiction authors, nonfiction, and yada yada. I'm just going to say authors. Now, the other thing to do, which would be good for you because it would help when people are searching for authors, your list will come up in the search engine. So that is one of the benefits of creating a list, because very few people do it. Only the really smart internet marketers do it. So whenever you're looking for an author, your list will come up, or that person's list will come up, and then you're going to say, oh, he's got a great list. I'm going to follow all the authors on his list, and I'm going to follow him or her. So that's why the other reason you'd want to create a list, because it will help increase your following. So you could say male author or fiction author, whatever you want to put in there. I'm not going to do anything right now because I need to do a little more research on Bruce to find out what type of books he writes. But I'll come back to this, and you can come back and you can edit. The other thing you can do is you can make the list public or private. So if you make it public, then anyone can follow the list, and that would mean if you had 100 people on it, they could follow everybody on the list. And some of the people may be already following, so Twitter will know to only follow those they are not currently following. Or you can make it private, which means you're the only one who can access the list. If you make it public, what happens is, and I'll show you this, is that person you put on the list gets a notification that they've been added to a list. So we're going to hit Save List. I'm making it public because I want Bruce to know we've got a great list called Authors, and he's on it. Because maybe he'll return the favor, or maybe he'll start a conversation with Mary because he's now on this list. You just never know what will happen because of it. We're just going to create one list for now. You can review this, and you can create all the lists you want, as I said, up to 1,000 lists. So we're going to click out there. We've got our authors list. Now I'm going to click on Connect, because remember I said that when you add a person to a list, they get a notification. Well, earlier today, or just a little while ago, I realized Mary was not on my author list. So I went and added her, and it's a public list. And so here it says, Heidi Richards Mooney added you to the list, Heidi Richards Authors. So now Mary knows, has been notified. Well, really it's me because I'm managing her social media. But if she were, she might say, oh, wow, that's cool. But say someone else added Mary to a list, or me, or you. You can click on the list, which is right below who added you. This is the list, so we call Heidi Richards /authors. And I could click on that, and it would show all of the authors on my list. And see, it says 33 members on the list. So now it shows I've recently added Mary. I've recently added Elaine Gratz. And I can actually start following all the people as Mary. I can follow all the people on this list. So I'm not following some of them. So now I have the opportunity to increase my following, which will also increase my followers. And I'm going to show you that in a moment. So all these 33 people on this list, because I have several lists of authors broken down a little bit more. This is my general author list. I actually have one called Clients too, but that's a private list. You wouldn't be able to see that, and Mary's on that list. So, and that's because sometimes I can't quite, if I have a lot of clients I'm working with at one time, I may not remember their exact Twitter name, but it's easier for me to go here and look at the list than it would be, say, to do a search for the person, because so many people will come up, and it will just take a little longer. So this is the best way for me to do this. Now I'm going to go back to my home, or Mary's home, and you'll notice now I just followed a few more people, and Twitter has given me more suggestions of people to follow, and I'm going to show you that again in a moment. So the cool thing about this is Mary and I started working together 2 months ago. She had less than 30 followers when we started working together. And so I have done a lot of this, as well as many other things, to increase her followers, because it doesn't matter how many people you're following. What really matters is how many are following you back. So I could follow 2,000 people before I don't have, before I'm not able to follow anymore according to Twitter rules. And then once 2,000 people follow me, then I can follow more people. So Twitter has built-in limitations, and that's again to keep people from spamming a lot of people on Twitter. So Mary has 1,056 followers as of right now, because I believe this morning she had 1,053. So 3 people have followed her today so far, and typically she gets a lot more than that, because we're very active on the site. We post 3 to 6 times a day on Twitter, usually morning, afternoon, and evening. Sometimes it's all at the same time if we have a lot of stuff to share at once, but basically we try to spread out our posts. So that's another tip for you. When you're on Twitter, you want to spread out your posts if possible, because you're going to see different people on Twitter at different times. Some people are creatures of habit, and they'll always go on Twitter at 9 a.m. in the morning, and others will always go on at 6 at night. So if you're not on at 9 or 6, chances are they're not going to see your tweets and you're not going to see their tweets, because the Twitter stream goes pretty fast. Since we've been talking, since I went to this page, Mary's gotten 53 new tweets. Well, partly it's because she has 1,056, she's 1,500 people that she's followed. Now 63 new tweets. So you can see, if I clicked on that and all these tweets come up, I'm going to miss a lot. I'm not going to try to sit there and read all 63 tweets. So I'm going to maybe scroll down and just read a couple of them. If I see a name or something interesting, or maybe it looks like a resource I can use, I may click on it, or I may connect with the person. So, you know, it's a matter of speed and timing when it comes to Twitter when you start building your list. I have 18,000 plus followers on Twitter, and I'm probably following almost that many. So my Twitter stream is going really fast, and it's hard to keep up. So you have to kind of pay attention. So here's 9 new tweets since we've been talking less than a minute. And so you can kind of, if you keep up with it like that, it's not too bad. So that's one way to build your following. Create a list of people that you can actually reconnect with, and use it for a few other things. And as I said, other people can follow your list, and you can follow their list. So you could go to someone's site. I'm going to go to my Heidi Richards and see if you can find any other lists. Let me see what other lists I have. So you can see what I mean by following other people. Let me see which ones I have. I have both my computers open. I'm working on my Mac, and I have my PC open as well. So I have lists for, I have a Twittering journalist list. It's a really good one. So let me see if that's a public list, because that would be a good list you'd want to follow. And the reason is, if you want to get the attention of Twitter journalists, you might want to, you're gonna, let me see if I can find Heidi's list this way. Okay, look at this. Twitter, click on that, and I'm going to look at the list members. So now I've got a whole new group of people who are PR professionals. They're journalists, actually, and I might want to follow a lot of them. So I'll come back here later on, and I'll follow a lot of these people for Mary on her behalf. And then the other thing you want to be careful of is you don't follow too many people at one time. You can follow up to 2,000 people, but say you follow 2,000 people in one day, you might get a nice little message from Twitter that says, I see you followed 568 people today. That's your limit. Please don't follow any more till tomorrow. So if you get that, that's fine. You'll just follow more tomorrow. But they want to make sure that, as again, I said, you're not spamming people. So I typically will follow up to 100 people a day for my clients. Sometimes a little bit more. Like if I'm following a list, I may follow a couple hundred. And my rule of thumb has been what other experts have said is probably a good rule of thumb is you can follow up to 20% of your current subscriber list or follower list. So she has 1,000 followers. So if I followed 200, Twitter's probably not going to get all bent out of shape and say, you're following too many people. But if I followed 500, they might send me a nice little notice and say, okay, you followed enough people for today. So keep that in mind. Your first goal in Twitter is to build your following. And by doing, how you do that is following others, people you typically want to follow you back, and sharing really good content. And then the third thing would be to post frequently. So you can't I wouldn't recommend coming over to Twitter once in a while and posting something and expecting anything to happen. You have to be active. It needs to be steady. It has to be timely. And it can be, as I said, if you only post at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's fine. What happens is the people who are posting at the same time start getting used to it, and they start looking for your posts, especially if you're posting really good quality information. So just create a schedule, whatever that schedule is that will work for you. And again, I would recommend at least 2 times a day spread out during the day, maybe in the morning and the evening, or in the afternoon and evening. One really great thing is if you have a smartphone, you can download the Twitter app, if it's a smartphone, an iPhone, whatever it is, and you can tweet on the run. So while you may not see it exactly as you see it here, it's really simple. When I go to meetings, I have my phone out, and I'm tweeting things I'm hearing. I'm tweeting things I'm seeing. If I hear someone say a really good quote, I tweet it and I share the name of the person so that that person knows I'm paying attention. So for instance, if I go to a meeting and someone like Alex Carvalho, who happens to be an email marketing expert, says something I think is just brilliant, I'm going to post it on Twitter, and then he's going to get a notice that I did, and here's how he's going to get that notice, is in the Connect. Here's your home. This is your home page. This is where all the tweets from other people that you're following come through. And you have Connect, and in the Connect, this is everybody who is either connecting with you by following you or mentioning you. Now, if you just want to read the mentions and not the people who are following you, you can go to mentions, and it'll just show the people who are mentioning your name. So here's someone, Rick Soper, who's thanking people for following him, and Mary happens to be one of them. And you'll notice that she gets a lot of messages. She got on the 14th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people mentioned her. And that's brilliant. And the reason is because if you added up the 5 people who mentioned her, their followers, and say they happen to add up to 10,000, and say 10% of those 10,000 are online at any one time when they're mentioning her, 1,000 new people potentially get to see her name on their own Twitter stream. So you want people to mention you, and you do that by connecting with them, by mentioning them. I love mentioning other people. I mentioned earlier that I talked about Alex Carvalho. I do this all the time. All day long, I'm mentioning other people on Twitter because it's not about me. And yes, it is about me. It's important that people know what you do. You want to be an expert. It's also important that you show other people's expertise. Not necessarily your competition, but maybe people who do something you don't quite do or you do a little different that you would like to promote. Because the more you promote others on Twitter, the more they're going to promote you. And that's a really quick way to increase your followers. So you want to do that. So here, I love the way Twitter gives you suggestions for people to follow. And how they do it is basically they do it based upon people you've already followed. So right now they're sending me a lot of suggestions for boomers. I think that's a good market for Mary to follow because she gets a lot of stories that are shared to her with her, and a lot of them come from the boomer market. So boomers would be a good market for her to follow. So we're going to go back to our home page. And by the way, when we're finished with Twitter, I'll open it up to questions before we go to LinkedIn because I think it'll be easier than waiting till the very end. The other thing you want to do in your tweets is you want to use keywords as much as possible. And the reason you want to do that is because then when you type in the word, a certain keyword, for instance, angels might be a keyword that we would use. Then you'll type it in the search. You see up here is the little search bar, and every time the word angels is mentioned, you'll get it. Now, Angels may not be a good example because of the fact that there's the playoffs for the baseball right now in Los Angeles Angels, okay? So maybe that would not be a good keyword to be using. So you might want to be more specific, like guardian angel. And you can use it with or without a hashtag. And if you listened to one of my previous webinars, you'll see we talked a lot about hashtags, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about them because I think they're so important and so valuable. So I didn't use the hashtag with guardian angels. So you can see everything regarding the word guardian angels comes up, and it could or could not be relevant. You know, if Mary was looking for people who've had experience with guardian angels, this would be a good way for her to look through her through the search bar to find people who've had experiences with guardian angels. And the reason I say that is because her book is about calling all the angels and about an experience she had when she was a young child with guardian angels and how it transformed her life and changed her and made her write this amazing book later in life. So that would be one way. You can also use the hashtag, which is just the pound sign in front of the word guardian angels. You can use it with or without a space. I'm getting rid of the space for now. Let's just see what comes up because I haven't done this in a while. So you see the word guardian angel still comes up, and I don't see anything with the hashtag. Well, this gives me, oh, there's one, guardian angels. There's the hashtag for guardian angels. Okay. So now every time someone uses the hashtag guardian angels, that's what's going to come up in the searches. And it'll be another great way to find people to follow who've maybe had an experience with a guardian angel. It'll be a great way to connect with people who've had an experience with a guardian angel, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to open up another window because I want to continue on hashtags for a moment. When we talked about hashtags in a previous webinar, we talked about claiming your hashtags. And you go to hashtags.org to claim your hashtag. And why do you want to do that? Well, you want to let people know that you created the hashtag, first of all. And then when people use it, then your name will come up. Okay? So Mary hasn't claimed a hashtag. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to search first to see if anybody has used the hashtag. So I'm going to hit guardian angels. Now, besides the fact that they have used it in Twitter doesn't mean that they've actually claimed it. So maybe they're using it, but nobody's actually gone over and claimed it. Okay, so see, no one's added a definition, no one's created it, claimed it. So there's an opportunity if Mary wanted to claim guardian angels and then start using it, and then people start associating that term with her. So that's what you do. You go over here. Now, if someone had already claimed it, it would have a definition and it would say who the person was. So you can see that nobody has actually claimed it. And not very many people have used it because you can see there's no analytics for it. So what my next strategy for Mary would be to claim the guardian angels as a hashtag, and then every day, at least once a day, use it in a tweet. And that's what you need to do because you need to dominate the tweet. You have to have at least 20 tweets that are associated with the hashtag with you before people understand that you own it. You know, here's the backlash of that can happen. I wrote a book called Quirky Marketing Calendar a few years ago, and it's actually in its 8th edition now. And so when I first started on Twitter in 2000, I think it was 2007, I started using the hashtag Quirky. Well, there's a website called Quirky.com. I couldn't get it because it was already in use, but they never used the hashtag. And in 2009, they started using the hashtag. And because I wasn't using it frequently, they kind of took over owning the hashtag. So now I use a hashtag Quirky Marketing, which is fine, but I really had Quirky before anybody did. So, you know, that's the drawback. And people, when they see it, they also might want to ride your coattails by using your hashtag too. That's okay, not necessarily ethical, but it's okay, you know, because then you end up showing up when they show up in the Twitter streams. So it's all right. I just wouldn't do it if it were me. So we're going to go back over to Twitter, and we see that everybody has these guardian angels, but not one person is dominating it except maybe this Guardian Indonesia, which looks like it could be a hotel or something. And if I clicked on it, I could probably find out a little bit more. So you can see that that could be a good search term. If you are a author of paranormal stories, maybe you want to use the hashtag paranormal author or something, or find something, a keyword that is relevant to what you are writing about, as well as that would make sense to people who are looking for it. And you might want to also look and see if anybody else is using it or looking for it, because if nothing came up under the word guardian angels when I typed it in the search, that could mean two things. It could mean that nobody cares and they're not really using it, so they're probably not going to look for it, or it's so new nobody has thought about it. So, you know, you have to kind of think about the words if they're true keywords. You know, maybe paranormal is a keyword, maybe something else will go with it better. So that's about hashtags. Another thing we really didn't talk too much about the last time, I'm going to go back over to the home page, is there's every Friday they have something called Follow Friday. Now really what I'm focusing on tonight is your followers. You really want to build your followers. When you work on this 3 times a day, 5 or 6 days a week, you can build your followers pretty quickly. But there's another quick way to build your followers, and that's called Follow Friday. And Follow Friday is basically a day designated to follow people and to mention people you want other people to follow. So I'm going to show you in this search what that means. And maybe you're familiar with it, but you may not have really used it much. One thing about Follow Friday that's cool is it usually ends up being a trending topic for the day. So every Friday you'll see either an FF or the word Follow Friday. Some people use the whole word. Some people use, see, now here's someone's got the name Follow Friday Helper. And then someone asked a question, has Follow Friday even gotten anyone to follow? I can tell you that my following increases dramatically on Follow Friday because there are still a lot of internet marketers who will mention other people, and my name gets mentioned quite a bit on Follow Friday because I'm mentioning a lot of people. I have an actual Word document. You can create an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document with about 300 or 400 people that I recommend on Follow Friday. And they're always the same 300 or 400 people, but they're influencers on Twitter. So I might say Bob Berg happens to be a good friend of mine. So I might, and he's an author. He wrote several books, mostly marketing books. Forgive me, I can't even think of them. Oh, he wrote The Go-Giver and The Go-Giver series. He's written a lot of books. I'm actually in 2 of his books, and he's just a terrific guy. He's got a lot more followers, maybe 50,000 followers on Twitter. So every time he mentions my name on Follow Friday, I get between 5 and 25 new followers. So that's the kind of people that you want to connect with, not just because of their potential with building your following, but because they're good people that you can learn from, and you can share them with your small following, because once your small following can turn into a big following. That's pretty much how I built my following, is through Follow Friday, following lists, and everything I'm telling you here. So here's some of the things that come up on Follow Friday. You'll see that some of them use the hashtag and some of them don't. If you click on the hashtag, the only thing that will show up here will be the Follow Friday hashtags. So now you'll see that everybody who's used the Follow Friday hashtag will come up. And sometimes it's a list of people. Sometimes it might be follow one person's name and a description of them. When I first started using Twitter, I would put Follow Friday Bob Berg, author of, and I would do one person at a time. And then once my list got beyond 100, I ended up spending whole days on Friday on Twitter, and I just couldn't do that. So I just started putting people in groups. So I would say, follow these guys, or thought leaders, and I'd list 5 guy thought leaders, and then I'd put follow these female thought leaders or women thought leaders, and then do that, or follow these authors and list the authors. So you can do it a lot of different ways, just whatever works for you. And so here you see, oh, that's not good. We will get off there. That should not have been there. Sorry about that. You see, sometimes Twitter doesn't find these photos and delete them. So I apologize. I should have looked for that first. Woo! Wow. I haven't seen that on Twitter. It's actually against a lot of against Twitter rules to post any pornography on their site. So let's go back to my home and we'll get off Follow Friday now. I've totally lost my train of thought. Oh, here's a couple people I would highly recommend that you follow. One of them is Charlie Jane, and let me just see if it's Charlie Jane. I think that's the actual name. She's a speaker. This is not her. She is a she books speakers. So Charlie Jane Speakers Services. Let me try that. Charlie Jane Speaker Services. I think it's Charlie without. Does is she books people to speak, and she loves booking authors. So she'd be a great person to follow. You'd probably want to check out her followers because there's a lot of authors in there. So that's one person I recommend to follow. Couple other strategies on Twitter, and then we'll move on. We mentioned about creating lists and tweet chats. This is another favorite thing I really love. So you want to go over to the search, and you want to do the hashtag tweet chats or tweet chat, either one. And you'll see a tweet chat is actually an event that happens on Twitter. And people create tweet chats based upon their own subject matter expertise. So for instance, you might find a tweet, like here's one called Twitter Networking. This is the tweet chat that happened on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can participate in it by simply using the word tweet chats and maybe Twitter networking. Now, I don't know why they didn't use a hashtag for Twitter networking for this tweet chat, because how you're going to find it is just under the word tweet chats, and it's going to get lost in all of these others. So see, for instance, Andrew Lopez created one called healthcare. So he used the hashtag healthcare and tweet chat. So anybody who's looking for tweet chats under the topic of healthcare, then everybody who's talking about that particular topic will come up in the searches. So you want to have 2 hashtags for a tweet chat. A good friend of mine, Gary Loper, I'm going to show you him. He does a tweet chat once a month, and it's simply a Twitter networking party to get people to increase their followers. So I've participated a couple of times, and I think I got over 100 new followers, and I only participated for about an hour. This was an all-day tweet chat that he hosted, and he invited about 20 influencers on Twitter to participate, and then other people participated throughout the day by seeing on everybody's stream this tweet chat for Twitter networking. So you can see he's got 108,000 followers, and he and I started on Twitter about the same time. I will tell you that I took a 6-month sabbatical from all social media at one point because it can be a little overwhelming, and that was at the point probably around 2010 when I wasn't sure I was actually going to follow this as a career. I was doing a lot of writing and speaking. I was traveling a lot, and then I realized that I really loved the social media, and I got back into it because I had missed it. So that was about when people started really getting on Twitter and following. So he built up his following pretty quick. I'm a little bit less active on my own because I'm managing so many other Twitter profiles. So I would recommend if you do as I say and just post 3 times a day, 5 days a week, you'll build your following pretty quickly. And when you've participated in tweet chat, that's great. But my suggestion would be to create your own. So Mary, I would recommend to Mary at some point to create a tweet chat about guardian angels and ask people to share their experiences with guardian angels. You own the tweet chat, you own the hashtag for guardian angels, and then every time someone mentions guardian angels in a tweet chat, you come up as a person who's created it, as well as other people say, oh wow, I've got to follow her because she's got this really cool tweet chat, and I can go back and review it at any point. So I can go back and review a tweet chat and see what was mentioned days, weeks, and months ago. So for instance, sometimes on these tweet chats, really great resources are shared. In fact, most of the time they are. And this is a wonderful way to segment those resources and look at them and review them later. So the other thing, so here's the formula. 3 times a day, 5 days a week, at least, so that would be like at least 3 tweets. I usually do more, 6 to 9 tweets. You want to retweet others, another great way to build your following, because when you retweet others, it ends up on their Twitter stream, and then other people will see it and say, oh, wow, I've got to follow her. She's a great retweeter. Because people like their names to, it's kind of like your name is the most beautiful sound to you. To each individual, that's what is our favorite sound, is the sound of our name when people mention it. So writing a person's name as a retweet. So for instance, I'm going to retweet female empowerment and financial independence. So I'm clicking retweet, and I'm going to retweet what Project Eve just wrote. So now on her Twitter stream, it's going to show up, as well as in her on her page that says connects or mentions, okay? And you'll see since we started, Mary's had a few new followers, and we haven't really done much. I've only followed a few people as we're just sitting here. So I'm actually getting work done while I'm showing you this. So you want to retweet others, and you want to engage with people. So you might see a conversation going on that is kind of a generic conversation. And you might want to say, gee, I need to find me a Lannister. I wonder what a Lannister is. So I might look up the word Lannister, and then maybe make a comment about it. Or this book is exceptional in many ways. So maybe I'll retweet it, or I'll say, tell us one way this is an exceptional book. They've already put a link to it, so they're expecting you to click on that link and look for yourself. But this would be a good way to engage with people. And don't be afraid to talk to people you've never talked to. That's what Twitter's all about. It's making conversations with new people, because that's the only way you're going to build your following. So this is a really cool one. 10 things you probably didn't know about Walt Disney, including Mickey's original name. So I'd probably click on that to find out what it said, and then I'd retweet it, or I'd tweet something that I read on that link. In fact, the best strategy would be not just to retweet, but to actually go in and click on the link and then actually comment on it, as opposed to just retweeting it. But you would comment to Time Magazine, obviously. So you'd put the @ symbol and the word Time, and then they're going to get it in their Connect or Twitter stream. Here's some tools I mentioned before, but I want to mention them again, that are really good. Tweepi, T-W-E-E-P-I, or I'm going to go over here and show you what it is. Tweepi.com. That is a tool that helps you, what they call it, unflush the unfollowers, or just unfollow those people who are not following you. So I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to click on flush the unfollowers. I'm going to give you some cautions here too. But let's start with that. Now I'm already logged into Twitter, so all I have to do is click login via Twitter, and it's going to ask me to authorize the application. Oh, it didn't ask me because I'm already authorized. So now you can see it says, hi, Mary Garner. You want to always check to make sure that this is your name up here, or your Twitter stream, and not somebody else's. I do this because I manage a lot of social media, and I've made the mistake sometimes of going and logging into Tweepy and finding I'm unfollowing people from another totally different list. So what I do is see, Mary has 1,057 people and she's following 1,500. So of those 1,057 people, she's not following all of them, nor are all of hers following her. There are 782 people who are actually not following her. So you can go through this one at a time and you can unfollow people. Now, what I do, because this is the most current followers, you don't want to start with the ones you just followed today. So page 40 is the page you'd want to start on, or any page. I'll say I'll start at 38, because maybe the first couple of pages I'm going to keep those people. I'm not going to unfollow them even if they're not following me. So now it shows the name of the person. It shows the last time they tweeted, how many followers they have, and the location. So I'm following all those people, and let me see. If they're back at the beginning of the list, it's probably been a couple of months since I followed them. So chances are they're not going to follow me back. So I'm going to click on unfollow, and it's cool because you can unfollow several. I'm actually just going to go through and unfollow the 20 on this page. Now, don't worry, because you can always go back and refollow them later on if they follow you. And by the way, there's no hard and fast rule that you have to follow everybody who follows you. But I kind of think that if you're going to follow people and they don't want to follow you back, unless they're a celebrity, someone with 1 million followers, or a celebrity who's probably not going to follow you back because they only follow 10 people, I would just say, why bother following them and putting them in your Twitter stream if you're not going to have any interactions with them? Because if you're following them, and you may love the information they're getting, but you're never going to interact with them if they're not following you, because they're not going to see your tweets. So I would unfollow them. So then when it says they're all unfollowed, then I'm going to go click on previous, and up here it shows there are 20 people, 20 tweets that weren't following me, and I just unfollowed them. Now, it says tweet this. I don't do that, and I'll tell you why I don't. I used to, and that's how I got in trouble. I have another site, another account on Twitter called We Magazine for Women, and one day I decided I have about almost 9,000 followers, and I'm following probably about the same. And I had about 3,000 who weren't following me, 2,500, something like that. So one day I decided to unfollow, I don't know, 700 or 800 people at one time. I got a beautiful letter from Twitter saying that I'm violating their rules because they don't want you to mass unfollow. So here's my rule of thumb, and you can try to be smart about it, is Mary's got 1,000 followers, so I wouldn't unfollow more than 100 people at a time. In fact, I wouldn't even if she had 10,000 followers, because the minute you start going over a certain number, Twitter's going to get suspicious and wonder if you're using automation to do this. Now, why they have the automation, I don't know, because it's in their terms of service. It says you're not allowed to mass unfollow anybody. So I'm still doing it one at a time, but in reality, I'm unfollowing people en masse, even if it is one at a time. So just be careful if you do it. I think it's a great tool. It's a wonderful way to see, for instance, this person hasn't tweeted in 2 months. Well, then I guess that person's never seen anything I've tweeted because they haven't been online in 2 months. So there wouldn't be any reason for me to follow that person, unless they had really good content I wanted to stay on top of, or they were somebody that I really wanted to, keep track of. So you can decide one at a time or in a group. Just don't unfollow people, a lot of people at one time. And don't tweet it, because then it'll end up in your Twitter stream, and who knows if that's how Twitter finds out that you've unfollowed all these people. There's another tool like Tweepy, TWEEPI.com, it's called Just Unfollow. It works similar to this, but I like this because of the way the interface is. It shows it all across. The other kind of goes down in a list, and it's a little bit more difficult to read, and it takes a little bit longer to follow and unfollow. And remember, I'm doing this for several clients, so I want to spend as little time as I can on the processes and more time on the interaction and the engagement. Twilio is a great tool as well. So Twilio is a search tool, and you can really use Twilio, Twellow, and let me go over there. It's a great search tool for finding people. You can find people on Twitter, but this one you can look through lists that Twilio has created. You can add yourself to Twilio, which I would highly recommend you do, which reminds me I'm going to have to add Mary to. It's pretty simple. You just add your name and your Twitter handle, and you put yourself in whatever list you want to be in. Because if someone comes over here and says news and media, here's 277,000 people listed under news and media. So I'm going to probably want to go and check this list out, right? I'm going to probably want to follow these people. You can look at the subcategories. It has it listed by different genres of news. So that's really cool. So if you wanted to follow only tech news media or reporters or journalists, you can go and just click on that particular media list and look what you're going to get. And then you can decide if you want to follow them, and you just click on follow. And you can follow John Sparks. He's cool. We'll follow him. Oh, can't do that. I got to log in with Facebook. Or I can log in with Twilio. First thing you want to do is you want to set up an account, and then you can start following people. So that's Twilio. Another one is called Who Should I Follow, which gives suggestions based upon who you're currently following. So if you're following a lot of authors but you'd like to follow more, go to whoshouldifollow.com, and it'll give you a list of people similar to who you're already following. My Cleaner, C-L-E-E-N-R, is another similar tool to Tweepy. And it just shows you the non-tweeters. So if you're following people who never tweet, that's a great tool because it'll only show you those who don't tweet. So I like My Cleaner for that. Another really cool tool, say you wanted to connect with people close to you geographically, is go to Nearby Tweets, N-E-A-R-B-Y Tweets. Let's see if we can find that one. And basically what it's going to do is going to show you people who are tweeting that are local. Be good if I could spell it. That's what editors are for, right? So Nearby Tweets. So right now it's going to ask you if they want to allow you to look at your location. I'm not going to allow it. Well, I can, but then it's going to think that Mary is in South Florida, and Mary is not in South Florida. So we're going to get out of there. Mary's in Washington, D.C. So I don't want to find Nearby Tweets for Mary in my community. I want to find them for her. So we're just going to get out of there. But that's what you would do, and then it's going to start giving you a whole list of Twitter people to follow. So we're just going to do that for now. So the best time to post on Twitter, the very best time, the most optimal, this is when the most people are on Twitter on a daily basis, are weekdays Monday through Friday between 1 and 3 p.m. And after 3 on Friday, traffic dwindles considerably. So you probably wouldn't want to tweet on Friday after 3 unless you just wanted to tweet with a few people. And it's really a matter of what you want to do. As I mentioned earlier, you want to post 1 to 3 times a day, probably not back-to-back, spread them out, up to maybe 5 p.m. The most popular tweets are usually food and pets. However, reading is a great tweet. Quotes. People love quotes, and you'll find quotes to get the most retweets of almost anything you do. So the trending topics, let's go back to Twitter because this is boring. The trending topics are the things that people are talking about the most today. So PSATs, I don't know, that could be those SAT tests, I'm not sure. I can click on it and see, right? So you might want to review the trending topics and see what's going on. I'm kind of afraid to click on any of these things after that last one I did. So, look at something and make sure it looks like something legitimate, because people will post some of the crappiest things on the Twitter trending topics, and then other stupid people will follow them, retweet them, just because they want to get their name on this page that talks about that, for no other reason than to show up in the searches. Don't do that. You want to only tweet things that are going to add to your credibility, not diminish it. The other last tool I want to mention, and then we're going to take a little break, answer questions, and then we're going to go right over to LinkedIn, is Twitterholic. Twitterholic is another really good tool because it shows who the most popular users are. And if you want to know who they are, this is a great tool for you. So, maybe you don't care about Justin Bieber and he has 45 million followers, but there may be others that you want to connect with in your in your genre. So this is a great way to see. You can track your own Twitter. Let's see Heidi Richards. I'm kind of afraid to do this, but let me go ahead and do it because I haven't done it in a long time. Let's just see how popular I am. And now, considering that I don't have anywhere near 1 million followers, it's probably not going to be really that high. But let me just see. Oh, look how it shows the amount of followers. It shows all the way up to September of 2008, when I only had 240 followers, and I had 127 I was following, and I did 104 tweets. But it only shows that it goes up to July of 2010. I'm assuming this is me. Yep, this is me. There you go. See? But I have a lot more than that. I have more than double. I have about 18,000 followers. So I'm not sure why it only goes to 2010. But see, it shows how many updates. So you can actually do a little bit of, research on people. Let me see. Deb McTiernan is another person. Let's do Deb. Deb is relatively new, and she may be listening tonight. She's maybe I didn't write her name in right. Let me do Mary Garner. And it may not show up if they don't have enough. I'm not sure. Okay, so Mary didn't show up either. So there must be a reason. Maybe they don't have enough followers yet. I'm not sure. And I'll have that answer for you if you'd like to know at the next time. So I think that we've pretty much exhausted the more advanced things for Twitter. Let me see if in my notes if there's anything. No, it looks like we've done it. So here's a couple of advanced Twitter strategies that I just want to leave you with, and then I'll answer questions. You want to create a Twitter marketing plan, because it's like any tool, any social media, any PR or anything you're going to use to promote your business. You want to create a plan around it. So your Twitter marketing plan could include how many times a day you're going to tweet, what you're going to tweet, have a calendar, a schedule. I've given lots of checklists. If you go into the forum, you'll see a lot of those checklists. Use them, because they're really going to help you manage your time. And really, if you're going to be doing this properly, it will take time, but there's ways to manage it. By creating a marketing plan is going to really help you, because you're not going to waste time. The biggest challenge I see with Twitter is it's so fun. It's kind of like Pinterest. You get on there and pretty soon an hour's gone and you can't even believe you've been on there that long. So you kind of have to create a plan. I actually, when I'm doing it for clients, I have a little timer. And so I have an idea of how much time I should spend. And I still always spend more time than I intended to, because if I'm in the middle of something, I don't stop till I'm finished. You want to do some research on who you want to connect with. You maybe your top 10 wish list of famous authors or authors, publishers, PR agents, whatever it happens to be, and then start looking for them on Twitter. So you want to do that. You want to write down how many times a day and a week you are willing to tweet. And as I mentioned earlier, 3 times a day is good. Minimum 1 time a day. If you do less than that, you're probably just wasting your time. And again, try varying your tweet times. Follow thought leaders in your niche. Interact with them. Engagement is very important. Share ideas and share their ideas. I mentioned that earlier. Join the chats, create your own tweet chats, and answer questions. If you see a question on Twitter that someone asked, be the first to answer it. They're going to remember you. I've had some great conversations on Twitter by answering questions. You want to make sure you're commenting and you're retweeting. Use your smartphone for Twitter. Quote others, and again, use keywords and write those down all in your marketing plan. All of that should be in your marketing plan so that you can have a visual about exactly what it is you want to accomplish on Twitter. So you're just not going off half-cocked and just, wasting time and then saying, because this is the thing that everybody does, they scratch their head going, what's the purpose of this? Why am I doing this? And how am I going to get anything from it? Mary's had some really good conversations. People have submitted, have retweeted her and submitted stories, et cetera, and I think she's building a nice following. And once she gets to 2,000, then the sky's the limit. Then she could probably follow another 3,000 or 4,000 before she has to stop following people. But what's funny about Twitter followers is when they see you have a lot of followers, they want to follow you. If you were following 1,000 but you only had 50 followers, chances are you're going to have a hard time getting number 51. So you kind of have to create a balance. You follow a few, wait till a few follow you back, follow a few more. So now I'd like to open up the phone lines to questions for a few minutes, and then we'll go on to LinkedIn. So Rama, if you're there, can you go ahead and open up the phone lines to everybody?
Sure thing, Heidi. Since I control the mic, I'm going to ask my questions first.
I love it.
Two things that I would like to know. You mentioned that you have, several kind of profiles on Twitter. Is that something that you would recommend? For example, do I want to have one that's just Rama John, and do I want to have one that's Sedona mountain biking, and then do I want to have one about promoting your book? Things like that?
That would all depend on how much time you're willing to give it, Rama, and how much you think you're going to gain from it. I have a magazine called We Magazine for Women. A lot of that's automated, so every time I do a post, it goes on there. I may not go to my We Magazine for Women Twitter page for a few days, but I know there's activity going on. So it really depends on what it is you want to accomplish, and that's why your marketing plan is important. I would, to begin with, especially if you're authors, I'd say if you think you're going to need more than one, go ahead and set them up, but don't promote them yet. And promote the one you know is going to bring you the quickest return or the most return first. And then steadily go back to them. Because once you're on Twitter, you can go back and forth and work them all. But the thing is that most people, I find, don't have the time to do one, let alone 3 or 4. I have Heidi Richards. I have Women in E-Commerce. I have We Magazine. I have one for my flower shop called Tulips Talk, but I don't ever go on that one, maybe once a month. But everything, I have all my tweets, all my blog posts, because I post daily, gets posted on there, so I have a good following just from that. But there's no interaction, so it's really not helping me as far as it's not monetizing, but I did it because I thought maybe at some point I might. So again, once you have a marketing plan and you know what it is you want to accomplish, that'll be an easier question to answer. I hope I've answered that.
I think you did. And then my other question is related to essentially the same question, but with hashtags. What's the upside or downside to registering several hashtags?
I can't see any downside. I mean, if you want, The only thing is keeping track of them, and that's where you want to have a marketing plan and figure out what those hashtags are for. Because you might have a hashtag for your genre, you might have a hashtag for an event, you might have a hashtag for your book, different things. So that's perfectly okay as long as you can keep up with it. In fact, I would highly recommend having more than one hashtag, because then people start seeing you all over Twitter and they go, wow, she's all over the place, or he's all over the place. So yeah, to me, that's a little different than having several accounts. Several hashtags are, remember, as long as you can manage them, you can do them. But it's really how you manage your time.
Thank you, Heidi. I'm going to unmute everybody and give them all an opportunity. Give me a second, gang. And I tell you, if I hear noise on the line after I unmute you, I'm going to probably mute you back up. So, keep the noise down. I've always recommended that we use headphones so we don't feedback. So give me a second. And if you're not going to speak, you can mute yourself back up. Okay, everyone is unmuted. And there is somebody feeding back, but I can't figure out who it is. So the forum is open.
Okay.
Heidi, this is Deborah McTiernan.
Hey, Deb, I was trying to find you on what was it? One of those.
It's Deb.
So how are you? Twitteraholic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just probably typed it in wrong. I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem. I had a question about the subjects that you suggested would be favorites that get retweeted. You said food, pets, and quotes. Is there anything else that you think?
Whatever the news of the day is. So, for instance, if you follow MSN or Yahoo News, a lot of that stuff gets tweeted a lot of times. So, for instance, a hot topic right now, of course, in the United States is the government shutdown. So that gets tweeted. If it's relevant to you, you'd want to probably tweet that too. But movies are really another thing that gets tweeted a lot. Unfortunately, our celebrities are tweeted a lot, and they get retweeted a lot because everybody, there's a lot of starstruck people out there. So those are things that might get tweeted and retweeted a lot. So celebrities, quotes, books, movies, food, pets, relationships. If you put anything about, I'm dating Mr. Wrong, blah, 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 and, you're going to have so many people going to jump in and say, oh, I dated him too, that kind of stuff. So those, relationships are another thing that gets a lot of tweets.
Okay.
Whether it's related to what you do is another thing. So you kind of keep in mind that you don't want to just tweet to be tweeting. It's kind of like talking to hear yourself talk, which I often do. But you want to really make sense. You want to position yourself on all these social sites of them as the expert in a specific area. On LinkedIn, I do this very well, and I'm now starting to get a lot of people contacting me saying, I need help with this, or this, because they see that I'm the expert, because that's really all I talk about on my site. I don't talk about 100 different topics. And Twitter is probably the same thing. I would say if you could stick to 3 or 4 topics, that doesn't mean you don't want to retweet people who are talking about interesting things that may have nothing to do with what you do. It just means that your primary focus should be on your niche or expertise and the majority of your tweets, because what happens is, for instance, here I'm going to go over to Mary's tweets, okay, and I'm probably not doing this really effectively because, for instance, today I did a lot of retweets for Mary, but when I'm posting, I posted a blog post that Mary had about angels. I posted something about readers, and so they're all related to books. Spiritual Leaders retweet in Sedona, Arizona. Something where it's making sense to what you do, okay?
Are holidays a big thing that get retweeted?
Holidays are another big thing. Thank you for mentioning that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good to talk to you again.
You
Hi,
too.
Heidi.
Yes?
Heidi, this is Mary.
Hey, Mary, I hope you
Thank
don't
you.
mind. I used you as my
No.
example.
No, I don't mind, and I'm grateful for what you've been doing because it's overwhelming to me. But I wanted to know how we can follow all the authors that we've been all in classes with and working with so that we can help one another.
Well, here's my suggestion, and this is something that Rama or Tom could do. They follow them and put them all on one list, whatever that list might be. It could
Right.
be students. It could be students or author students. And then you go on and follow Tom. You go to Tom's page, and then you go to that list, and then you follow them like that. Otherwise, you have to go find each person individually. That's the reason I like lists. I'm following a few of you, the ones I've interacted with, like Deb and you and Jasmina and Mr. Lee, a few other people, but I'm not following everybody because we really haven't had much interaction. But if I had a list, I would create it and follow. So if the other thing is, if when you have a class, when Rama has a class, if he gave a list of everybody's Twitter profile or Twitter, their Twitter handle, and sent it to everybody, then you could easily follow that way. But that's something that probably Tom or Rama would have to do for you to follow them. Be the easiest way.
All right.
For you.
One more thing for Rama.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
Well, if he gives me the list, I'll be happy to create it and put it and then send it to everybody. I just don't have everybody's Twitter handle. Some people I've not done anything other than the group here. We've not done individual one-on-one, so I don't know everybody's Twitter handle. Either way,
Right.
I'm happy to do it.
Sounds good. I haven't done much with Twitter yet myself, so maybe that's something I can actually work on.
I think that it'd be better if you did it, Rama, because then it gives you the credibility, and you're the one with, it's your class. You know what I mean? But believe me, when you do it, everybody will follow it. So that's another good thing for you and for them.
Sounds good. I'll probably do it out of Tom's account since he's the big cheese here.
He's the big kahuna?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Because we got to go on to LinkedIn before we run out of time.
I have one more question. This is Nadine here. Can you
Hi.
hear me? Because I'm mobile. I'm sitting in a truck. I hope it's not too noisy for the other ones.
Hi, Nadine. I can hear you fine.
Oh, thank you, Heidi. Thank you. Yeah, I started using Twitter after your first webinar that I listened to, and I've been playing a bit. And there's two questions I had. One was, in the beginning, I got a message from Deborah, who's listening in as well, and it brought me to a complete different side and started asking for my password. So I didn't go there. It seemed like the title was, you want to know who is talking about you or something. And I thought, no, I'm not going to go into that.
My account got hacked.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, that's what I thought. It looked like a hack thing.
Yeah.
And I apologize
Okay.
to everybody for the hacking to alert
Oh,
them
no,
that
don't
what was going
apologize.
on.
Well,
I just
yeah,
wanted to check if that happens on Twitter, if they do get hacked, like Facebook accounts get
Yeah,
hacked a lot
it-
as well.
it
People can't
does.
do anything about
Yeah.
that.
Whenever you get an email of any kind that asks you to put a password in, don't do it. Go right
Yes.
to your Twitter page from your own computer. Like
Yeah.
like up here, I'm on my computer, so I'm going to open up a new tab and I'm going to type it in up there. Don't click on links and don't add passwords, because this way you know you're going right to the right page. The other one they can
Yeah.
redirect you because there's so much scamming going on. So yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Nadine.
Yeah, no worries. And then the other one was, I had people who started following me, and I wanted to, or I started following them both, and I get a message. When I reply to the message, it'll say, you can't send messages to these people? Like you need an authorization to send somebody a message on Twitter, or?
You can only send messages to people who are following you. But here's how you circumvent. So for instance, here's Mary's messages. She's got 42 messages. We don't really deal with messages. I'll tell you why. Most people don't even bother reading them. And the reason is because most people are sending you somewhere else. Thanks for the follow, I follow back. Or here, check out this freebie or whatever it happens to be. So there's a lot of nonsense going on. So for the most part, I just tell my clients don't bother with the direct messages. The best way is to when you're creating a post, say you want to reply to somebody, say, put their, Deb, what is your, Deb, it's McTiernan, right? Now look what happens when I type
an underline. There's
Deb,
an
underline. Okay, I'm just going to put Deb. Here we go. So see, I typed in the word DEB, and here she's the first one that comes up. So I'm going to click on her name, and then I'm going to say something like, great chatting with you. Mary, I hope you don't mind.
No, I'm glad.
So guess what? I'm tweeting that. Now, Deb is going to get an automatic message in her Connect under mentions and interactions that I tweeted her a message. And that's really the best way to connect with other people, whether you're following them or not, because you can mention people you're not following that way. You cannot send them a direct message, but this is really better. Most people will read this, and the reason they do that is they want to see what other people are saying about them. So it's a great way to get people to read. This was a quote that I had retweeted from, here's Mary tweeted this quote, I saw an angel in the marble, because it had the word angel, and I carved it and set him free. And look, Valerie retweeted it. Well, she saw that on somebody else's page, and then I followed her because we weren't originally following her. But because she retweeted it from somebody who was following Mary, Mary got this message that it was retweeted. And I'll show you how you know that. When your people you're following mention you, you'll see this reply, retweet, and favorite down here. When they're not, it doesn't show up. But then you can go in and you can follow them. So then the next time they mention your name, it will show up. Okay? So that's a good indication. Okay. Like Georgia was not following Mary. I'm not, or Mary wasn't following Georgia, vice versa. So we are following Georgia, but she's not following us. But she saw a quote somebody else. She saw that same quote probably on from Valerie's page. So it's a good way to talk to people without spamming them.
Yes, yes, I see. You just put the @ in front and their name. Yeah, and don't send
exactly.
any inbox. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there a way to automatically thank people to follow you? An automatic rule for...
You can use a couple of tools to do that. One of them is called Social Oomph, OOMPH.com.
Yep. Yep.
Social Oomph. I'll type it up here.
SocialOomph.com. Yeah.
Here's the direct messages, or you read it like a week later. So this is really a cool tool if you're going to use it properly. And they've got a lot of, I actually used this for a long time when I first started, because I made the ultimate mistake in Twitter when I first started. I would tweet, like say today was Halloween. So I might tweet the top 100 scariest movies for Halloween. So every 4 minutes, I think that you're allowed to tweet every 4 minutes on Social Oomph. So you could schedule tweets every 4 minutes apart, and people would get it in their Twitter stream. The problem was Twitter was so new back then, not that many people were following that many people, so they might get 100 tweets from me and not from anybody else, and people were massively unfollowing me. And when I finally figured that out, I stopped doing it. So if you're following 1,000 people and they're following you, you're probably okay to do that. but I wouldn't tweet every 4 minutes anymore. But I did it because I thought, oh wow, this is a great way to get my name out there. It sure did, but it was, you know, it was a double-edged sword. Some people thought it was great and retweeted it, and other people said, you're clogging up my tweet stream and I'm unfollowing you. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, think about it, use it wisely, that's all.
The one that I was thinking about is an automatic tool that if somebody starts follow you, they automatically get a message and say,
Yeah.
thanks for following me.
You set it up in here.
Is that the same? That's also Social Loom. Oh, yeah.
It'll allow you to set up an automatic tool. See where it says automate, said direct messages to new followers, you automate it. And you put in the message you want to say.
Oh, to new followers. Okay, yeah.
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 Follow, and it lets you automatically follow people who follow you, etc. So there's a lot of cool tools here, but you have to just look at them, and it's, you know, it can be a little confusing when you first start. My suggestion when you first start is do everything hands-on.
Manual.
When you, and then once you get used to it, then you can start automating more. Because, you know, there's tools like Hootsuite and Buffer. Buffer's a great tool. It's a little bit more personal than Hootsuite. I'm not mentioning too many of those because we're not at that level yet. Most of us need to really understand the channel before we can automate. You know.
Of course, yeah.
Great
No, I'll
question.
just keep it all manual. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was it. Thank you very much.
If we have any more questions and you want to ask at the end if there's time, or if you would like to message me or, you know, text me on Twitter, I'm more than happy to answer them. You know, if you just mention my name, I'll answer them. And everybody, if you would follow me, you'll see me mention other tools, because I do that on Twitter. I mention tools for Twitter and great articles and resources from time to time. Most of what I do on Twitter is social media and internet marketing, so you'll see a lot of great resources. But the challenge is keeping up with it. So, you know, if you don't mind getting a few tweets a day, probably about 10 from me, then, you know, you can do it. So if it's okay, Rama, if you would like to mute everyone out, I'm going to go over to LinkedIn because we only have about 25 minutes left, and I want to spend the rest of that time on there, okay?
Sounds good. I've gotten everyone just about muted back up, except for myself. And now
So, okay, wonderful. So, again, I'm going to use Mary as an example. I have other clients, but since I figured Mary was going to be on here tonight, Mary, you'll let me know if it wasn't a good thing. But I promise not to embarrass you. I think you are doing a great job on this social media. And I just want to say, yesterday Mary had 296 connections, and today she has 311. LinkedIn takes a lot longer to build your connections. And the reason is because, well, you do it one at a time, first of all, and you do that the same with Twitter, but you don't want to massively follow everybody. It's got to make more sense. This is more of a professional platform. It's not as casual as Twitter. So I would recommend, you know, you think about the people you're going to follow when you're following them on LinkedIn. What can you add to their experience, and what can they add to your experience? So let me just say, we're going to start with the profile. I think that we're on the profile here, yes. And I'm going to just show you, Mary's pretty much almost all complete on her profile, if not complete. She did all her homework that we gave her at the very beginning. When we went through the first few sessions, she went in and she actually added her summary. She added her specialties. You'll see that in one of the webinars. Very important. You add keywords throughout your background and your summary, because you want to come up in the search engines with angel, like for instance hers are angels. She might I would recommend possibly adding the word guardian angel there, Mary, because that's one thing we didn't add to it. So that's another thing. And then she'll put her experience. And what's cool is Deb McTiernan actually gave her a recommendation, and I think that May recommended Deb as well. So you want to try to build your recommendations because that gives you more credibility. and we'll talk a little bit about how to do that. Then she put down her projects, her publications. The only thing is here where hidden soul words, I would recommend that, Mary, that you add some text. What's that book about? Okay. And if you send it to me, I'm more than happy to do it for you. The organizations Mary is involved in, she put this wonderful Hope Inc. Foundation and gave a nice sentence or two about it, but we really should have it for all of these. So each of these should have at least a sentence so people understand what is United Religions Initiative and Foundation for Conscious Evolution. I haven't paid a lot of attention to the organizations. Mary, I think, just did this not too long ago, but those are the kind of things that you'll get found better in the LinkedIn search if you add text to the titles. Don't just add, people will find you if they're looking for the words United Religious Initiative. But what if you said United Religious Initiative here, and then you put in so-and-so United Religious Initiatives was. Now you've used those three words together twice. So now you're going to have a more likely chance of that getting found higher in the search engines. Because if you watch the LinkedIn webinar I did, it talks a lot about the one with the most keywords wins. And that sounds a little tongue-in-cheek, but basically, if you had the word author and you were using it 10 times in your profile and someone else is using it 11 times, the person who's using it 11 times is going to come up higher in the search engines, in the LinkedIn search engines than you. And then you could do a search to see who those people are and count how many times they're using certain words, and then just, after a while it's going to get ridiculous. We're going to be using keywords way too many times. But for now, people still don't get it. So now it's still a good time to position yourself higher in the search engines for LinkedIn. Now, here we've got the skills and expertise, and those of you who've been on LinkedIn for a little while understand this is the things that you're endorsed for. So Mary's endorsed for creative writing. It would be nice if Mary could get endorsed for guardian angels. So we need to work on that, Mary. That's the next thing I will start working on for your skills and expertise, because that's another great keyword, long tail keyword that you want people to find you for. Because maybe you don't want to be known as for conflict resolution, or maybe you do, but you don't really want to promote that. So like down here, we've got poetry, storytelling, etc., etc. That's nice that you know about that stuff, but really, what is it you want to promote? So you want to be most endorsed for the things you want to promote. Mine is social media, internet marketing, etc. And I'll show you mine in a moment. So those are a couple of the things in your profile that are very important. If you review that thing, you'll understand you need to use keywords underneath your name. Mary did a great job, author, writer, visionary, publisher, where she is, and what her expertise is, writing and editing, and her company and the school she graduated from. So because people will search you for it for a number of reasons. They're going to find they want to connect with every single person who graduated from their college or their high school. So you want to put those in if you want to get found, you want to put those on your profile page. And what's really cool is when you think you've finished your profile, you're going to start getting these really nice messages at the top. This is, where else have you worked? So say I just want to skip that for now. It'll come up again, by the way, when you log in again, because if you don't fill it in, it's going to keep coming up unless you click on no more positions. So I'm going to skip it because I don't want to click on it, no more positions, because then it won't come back up again. So I'm just going to click skip. And now it's going to say, do you want to associate author calling all angels with your experience or education? And you might say yes or no. So then it's going to say, where do you want it? It's going to give you choices of where you want to associate that. We're going to associate it with author at Gardner Publishing and hit save. And it's going to keep doing this over and over and over again. So we're going to do... we're going to type in her URL for calling all the angels. make sure I do it right, callingalltheangels.com, and then it's going to save it. And this is just another way. Sorry, there was a problem. Let's see. Okay, I probably should put the HTTP. Let's just see if that was the reason. Sometimes it is. Yep. So you see, it'll tell you when it did it wrong. So you see here are some things we'll be covering. It shows the things that you haven't completed or you could add to. You can click Finish Later. You can add all of these things. Right now it's talking about your projects. When we get through with all of the projects, then it's going to show courses. That's going to come up here. Then it's going to show publications. So you want to expand as much as you can at each of these categories. And I really mean as much as you can. If you've taken courses that you think have the keywords that people are going to find you in, by all means, add them under the courses. So once you're finished with projects and you say, I'm done with this, then it's going to take you to the next category called courses and so on and so forth. Then it's going to show you your improved profile. So we do have a little bit of work to do. I need to get more of Mary's publications, her volunteer experience. What we've been doing, oh look, we've had a new follower since we started a minute ago. We've now got 312 new connections. What we've been doing mostly is focusing on content and connections. So when you first start on LinkedIn, you want to build your profile, and you want to concentrate on connections and content. So let me go to her home page and show you that. I'm going to try not to be redundant from the last times we've talked about this. So on her home page, this is where all of her it's like your Twitter stream. This is all of the information of the people that she's following or connected with is showing up here. And then when she puts her stuff, when she posts something up here, she'll do an update. Then that will show up on the similar page of the people who are following her. So they're not going to see the same thing, just as they don't see the same thing in their Twitter stream. But what's really interesting is when you see an article or something that you like, you can just click on, let me just see if I can find something that would make sense. Here, mobile is the future of payments. We're not going to click on like, but if we did, then this article will now show up on all of your connections page because you've liked it, and it's going to show that you've liked it. So when you go to your groups, for instance, we're going to go to the groups next. Under interests are groups, at least on her page. Some of the older platforms, if you've been on for a while, it might be listed under profile or network. But we're going to say here it is under groups. So all of the groups Mary's a part of are listed here, and she actually is a part of now 9 groups, and you can see how many discussions are going on, how many, if there are none, like this one has none. This little lock and key means that you have to join and be approved. So Mary's been approved for 2 associations that or 2 groups on LinkedIn. Actually, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So here, Books and Writers, that's a very active group. So go to Mary's group and look at some of the groups she's following and see if those groups would be relevant to what you're doing. Because they're Books and Writers, for instance, is all over the place. It's not just one genre of book. It's just talking about books in general. It talks about, let's see what, it talks about social media. It talks about, here's a guy asking for calls for submission. A lady talked about finishing her book, and now what does she do? So if you see a topic that resonates with you, you can post on here. Mary had an interesting conversation with someone who found her on a group who we posted something about looking for stories about guardian angels, and the woman Lynn sent her a message saying that she had a story, and she actually had 2 really good stories that Mary is now going to use as guest posts on her blog that she met through one of these groups. So they might send you a direct message this way. Here's Lynn Alexander. I'll give you an example. She was the one that sent Mary a message. She checked her profile, says, see, I deal with angels, and 2 stories. And how we found Lynn is through another group. I found her on another group. I don't remember what she was talking about, so I connected Mary with her. And then she's now connected with her. She actually sent her an email with the 2 stories. I think it was yesterday. And they happen to be very good stories. So, you know, you just never know the interactions you're going to have with total strangers that are going to lead to something. And now Mary has some really great content for her blog. So here's her messages, which is, you know, very cool. You can read your messages. It shows you when you've replied. See that little arrow going that way? That means you've replied. We haven't replied to Manoj yet, but we will. And then if she had any invitations, there would be a little number next to invitations, and those would be all the people who wanted to connect with her. What I do is I go to invitations, even if there's nothing there, and I read about the people, because this is people you may know that LinkedIn is suggesting you might want to connect with. So I will look at them, read at least what they do. Here's my suggestion, though. Don't connect this way because you're going to get confused and forget where you left off. See where it says see more people you may know? Instead of connecting here, go right to see more people you may know. And they're still going to show up here, but now it's going to show where they are. And once you connect to them, I'll just give you an idea. Let's find somebody that sounds like we want to connect with them. Independent writing and editing professional, Kathy DeWolf. So we're going to connect with Kathy. So see, it shows that we've sent the message. If you do it on the other page, you might click it 2 or 3 times because it doesn't show that you've already sent her an invitation to connect. The only bad thing is it's not a personal message. It just says, I'd like to add you to my LinkedIn network, which, you know, even though some experts say that's not a good thing, I have found that most of the people we've reached out to will return the favor. So here's another one we might want to connect with, spiritual director, Bible study teacher. And now, Mary, you can always unconnect to these people if you say, oh, that person just makes no sense to me. I didn't connect or start to connect with somebody that Mary didn't really want to connect with. And so, you know, we withdrew our request. And, you know, sometimes that happens. When you're doing it for other people, the big challenge is that I'll have an idea of who Mary wants to connect with, and usually it's other authors, editors, publishers, or maybe people who are in a similar genre. But I may also connect with people that are actually maybe competitors that she doesn't want to connect with. So, you know, and I wouldn't know that without having a list. But it can be easily rectified. Actually, I like connecting with competitors because I like to see what the competitors are doing, and I don't mind if they know what I'm doing. But I have to be careful because I don't know what my clients want. So then that's what you would do. You would click on the people you may know and go to the second page. So we've done that. We've done the invitations. Here is, these are all messages that right here is where people, it shows who's now a new connection. It shows how many people. It shows people who commented on the discussion you've had. So if you wanted to click on that particular one, you can, and it'll take you right to that page on the group and see what other people have said in that discussion. And I don't really remember what we said here, Mary. There's a lot of 49 comments, so we'd have to go back. But it's a good way to say, oh, I like this person. Here's another thing. Let me see if we can do this. No. Okay, you used to be able to click on their name, and you could just, oh, here we go, connect. So I want to connect with Marilyn, so I just click on their name, The only problem is you're going to put down she's in a group that you're in. And not a problem. It's easier to connect with people in a group than it is to connect with people you have absolutely no connection with. You don't know their email, or you've never done business together. So I like to go to groups and find other people who might have a similar interest to my clients, and I'll connect with them that way. And that's another great way to build your following. So go to your groups to increase your following. That's the easiest way to do it. It's not as quick as it is on Twitter, but it's a good way to increase your following quickly, because LinkedIn, as I said, takes a lot longer. Facebook's a little quicker. Twitter is really quick. You can add up your following. You know, you could probably have 2,000 in a month if you really worked it hard. But with LinkedIn, it's a little bit more of a process. So you might want to do search for people in your own market. So let's do a little search. We're going to look for, I'm going to type in the word guardian angels. I haven't done that in a while. And just see what comes up. So it's interesting. Mimi Barber comes up. When you type in the word guardian angels, actually 1,879 people come up. Now, she's a second tier connection, so you would have to get introduced to her unless you actually had, were in a group with her. So you have to look at those people, and it looks like all of these are second level connections. Now, you can't do it. You just have to find someone else who's connected to that person. So you would click on Get Introduced, and a list will come up. These are all people who are that are you, as well as to me. And then you would send them a message, like Sarah, say, if I was really good friends. I'm not sure if Mary is really good friends to any of these people, so I'm not going to actually send it. But say I'd say, I'd like to be introduced to Mimi Barber. I would say, PJ, would you mind, or would you please introduce me to Mimi? And then, you know, why you want to get introduced. So you would say, I want to get introduced to Mimi because I noticed that she's has something to do with guardian angels. Now, before I sent the request, before I actually asked PJ to connect me to Mimi, so let me cancel this out, I'd want to go to her profile page. And the reason is, I may just assume, let me see, I'll go back, that has something to do with guardian angels because she came up, and maybe she used it one time in her profile, and it has absolutely nothing to do with this. So you'll want to read the summary. You'll want to look at what she wrote and see if really it had anything to do with, maybe we want to connect with her because she's an author. Okay? So you can see if you have a common interest. This is a much slower way to connect with somebody. But they're in a group together, so you could actually connect with her through the group and do a direct message. So see, I didn't realize that Mimi was, because I typed in guardian angel. So if I go to that group, it says LinkedIn, linked eds and writers, I can find Mimi there and connect with her directly. So that would be a shortcut, as opposed to the second degree of separation. We're now only 1 degree because we're in the same group. I hope this is making sense. It's a little bit more fragmented than Twitter is, in my opinion. And as I said, it takes a little bit more time. You can expect, if you're on LinkedIn, that you're going to want to spend about half an hour a day. Okay? I probably spend an hour a day on LinkedIn between Mary and another client, and then my own, I just do it whenever I can. I really don't spend a lot of time on my own, even though I've got, I think, 4,000 followers. But I've been on there a long time. And I always post relevant information. So on my profile, for instance, let me just see, I'll find mine. And Mary and I are connected. Here I am. So, see, it says, I haven't even completed my profile. Isn't that terrible? oh, I'm not going to be able to find my homepage, but it will show the last thing I talked about. So you see, if you want to see what a person has posted, their activity, this shows the people that are now connected to them that have actually either I've connected with, or they've connected with me. And then here it shows my post that I've done. So here I like this post. I didn't even write the post. I just liked it, and it showed up on my homepage and in my activity. Oh wow, here's some people who sent me messages I didn't even know. So see, I've got some work. I got to go back over here. So it won't show too many. It'll show maybe the last couple of days. So here's something I put: 25 ways technology's changed the world, or changed our lives. So when I see an article, I will post it on there. I post my own things on there, and so it shows the last 14 days. So you can see I haven't posted a whole lot on my own LinkedIn. But you can, it's a great way to create, to gain competitive intelligence on your people who are doing what you're doing, and see what they're posting, and look at how many people are following them and seeing what works for them. You can see how many people have actually followed me. 1, 2, in one day I've had 2, and I've done nothing on LinkedIn in the last week, and then 5 days ago I had 1. So if I were active, whereas Mary is much more active. So when I go to her profile, you can see how many people have actually connected to her. It says Roland, K. Robinson, and 3 others, and that's just in the last 4 hours. And then 8 hours ago, you'll see she liked this discussion, etc. So you really want to do your homework before you connect with total strangers. Now, if they're people you know, they're going to probably say, oh, wow, look, since we've been on LinkedIn, Mary's she started out with 311, now she has 315. So 4 new people have connected with Mary in just a short time. So sometimes it happens where a lot of people will connect all at once, and then you'll have some time where you won't have anybody connected. We've been doing this now about 2 months together. And it's basically because we're posting interesting information. It's not all about Mary. Mary asked me about backlinks, and I'll briefly mention that. On LinkedIn and on Twitter, backlinks will show up in the search engines. They don't on Facebook. They're talking about maybe doing that, but right now they're not really showing up on Facebook, so you don't get credit. Now, Google Plus is probably the best social media platform for backlinks. So every time you post something from, say, your blog to your LinkedIn page, that's considered a backlink to your other channels. And so you want to do that as much as you can, because then you start showing up higher in the Google search engines. But you don't want to do it, I shouldn't say you want to do it as often as possible. You don't want to do it every single post, because you don't want it to become all about you. LinkedIn is like all the other social channels. It needs to be about your audience. So you want to post things that are going to help your audience. That are going to be, for instance, the inspirational things. Mary asks for stories of guardian angels. So that's a great way to ask for a story and post a backlink. She might share a blog post on LinkedIn and then link to it. But more often, she's going to share what other people have posted. She might share, and you can share quotes on LinkedIn just as you do on Twitter. Used to be, it was really all about business, but because there's so much diversity now on LinkedIn, and it's not just careers and people looking for jobs, you can post a lot of other things. So if it's relative to what you do, you're going to find other people who are on LinkedIn that are searching for the same topics or have the same interests that you have. Let's talk about your connections for a moment, because I think we're almost running out of time. So you're going to go to network. You're going to see where it says network. You're going to click on contacts. You can add connections here. You can even find people who graduated from your school. So let's go there. We're going to say find alumni. And it's going to show who attended George Washington University Law School. And you're going to pick the years, that you, if that's the years that Mary went, 1977 and 1980. It could include people with no dates, but it's going to show people that have graduated. It's going to show how many people, 939 in the United States, are list that they went to school between 1977 and 1980 at George Washington University Law School. So then she would click on that, and all these people will show up. Another great way to connect, and you can simply click connect because you have a common interest. With LinkedIn, if you can clearly show a common interest, whether it's an educational interest or you're in the same group or something, if you can show some sort of connection, you don't have to have that second or third degree. So for instance, Stuart, I'm not going to connect any of these people because I think Mary would probably want to look at the list before I did. I'm not sure. But we'll talk about it later. So if I were to connect with, say, Stuart, he's IT and operations leader, he's a third degree connection. That means that he's connected, you know, kind of like the 6 degrees of separation. I'd have to go through 2 layers of people to actually connect with him directly. But because we went to the same school, I can simply click connect, and it would say, I'd like to add you to my LinkedIn connections. So this is another great way, which is something we have not done, to connect Mary to other people and increase her following. So now I'm going to go back to networks, and it says add connections. Now remember, again, connections and content, what you're focusing on right now. So say you have a database or a list of people in Gmail. You could simply go to Gmail. Let me see if this is going to work. I don't use this tool, but I know how. Okay, it's not going to work. So we're going to just click on continue in Gmail. And then box is going to come up, and it's going to populate, and it's going to show all these people who are on Gmail and somehow know you, okay? They've already expressed that they know you somehow or some way. So that's another way you can build your list, and you would just add them all. You would just click on it. And this is a way to mass follow people if you wanted. And you can do the same thing with Yahoo, Outlook, etc. So now let's go to contacts. So here's all of Mary's contacts that she has. And this is a great way to send them a direct message as opposed to trying to find them in the search. She can go down here and she can say, oh, I need to talk with Randy Gilbert, a Dr. Productive, and I need to ask him a question. So you would go down here. You could tag them, which means that when you tag them, kind of like Facebook when you tag people, then they're going to get a notice that you've tagged them, okay? It also gives you more people to connect with. So it's constantly giving you suggestions of people you can connect with. So it's pretty cool. Again, as I said, you really want to think about it. You want to create a plan for LinkedIn as you did with Twitter, or you do with Twitter, and how you want to use it, how many people. With Mary, we've set goals for how many followers. For instance, with Twitter, average 500 a month. So we've done that because it's over 1,000. We did like 700 the first month and then 300 something this month. But average over time, it'll be about 500 a month. With LinkedIn, you'd be safe if you said 50 to 100, depending on how active you were on the social network. Facebook, I think You have to do a little bit more research, but you can find other people and look at who they're following. If they're your friends, follow all those people they're following. It's a little bit easier on Facebook. Let me see if there's anything else that I need to cover. I'm sure there's a lot of other things. Endorsing. We talked about when people endorse you. Here's Mary's thing that you see where it shows she now has two new connections. Let me see if any of these people endorsed her. Yeah, I just saw one. Endorsed. Okay, so Maurice Horowitz. Maurice happens to be in one of the beta groups. I believe I had a nice conversation with him. I don't know if he's on the line, but if you are, hi, Maurice. So he has endorsed Mary for magazines. So then you click on that, and now all of the people that are in your list you could actually endorse if you know that's their skill. Here's the only caution I would say about endorsements. If you don't know that Elizabeth Beck knows team building, don't endorse her for it, because here's what happened with Mary. Because of the keywords or the words that are used in her activity, her background, et cetera, LinkedIn will populate it with words and assume that she knows creative writing because maybe she used that too many times. So maybe Mary doesn't want to be endorsed for teaching. But it's going to automatically come up, or maybe team building isn't part of what Elizabeth really wants to be known for. So if you know they do, if you know the people and you know they want to be, then go ahead and endorse them. If not, just click on close and that'll close. The other thing you want to do, and I always do this for my clients, is when someone endorses you, send them a little message and say, thank you for endorsing me. Now, endorsing is different than writing a recommendation. I showed you down here, Deb McTiernan had written Mary a nice recommendation. She wrote, Mary is a creative author who sees the angel connections. Let's see what else she wrote. Where did it go? Did I click on it? Okay, what did I do here? Oh, I hit edit. Sorry about that. So we can automatically, when she does a recommendation, we can send her a message. You'll get actually a notice in your inbox that someone wants to recommend you, and you can, and it'll say to you, would you like to endorse this person? And if I know the person, I will gladly endorse them back. And the reason is, you want to encourage more of that. The more you do, the more you'll encourage. In fact, I tell my clients to be proactive and go find people that you do know, either through your connections or maybe they're not actually connected to you yet, and go ahead and automatically write a recommendation for them. If you've had a good experience with somebody, because chances are they're going to write one back for you. And even if they don't, they may follow you, but they're certainly going to be grateful for it. Some people will. I wouldn't say everybody's going to write you back a recommendation, but certainly a good majority will. The other thing you can do on LinkedIn that's kind of cool, oh, we're running out of time, 1 minute. I'm going to just say this quickly. You can create your own group. You know, we had interest where it says groups. So if you had the time, or you wanted, spend extra time, or you wanted to be known as a thought leader in a specific genre, I would highly recommend creating your own group and then inviting everybody that was following you that would fit the profile of the group to join it. For instance, with Mary, Guardian Angels would probably be a group, might be a good group to have. I don't know how many people would actually join it, but maybe she'd start a group called writing essays or something like that, or storytelling or sharing stories of guardian angels. I'm not sure exactly the topic. I'd have to have a conversation with Mary about it. But that could be a great group. She becomes a leader of the group. Most of these groups end up being self-sustaining. I have 2 groups on LinkedIn. One is We Magazine for Women, and the other is Women in E-Commerce. And both of those groups, I have a lot of people in, and they're constantly discussing things. So I rarely go there. Once a week I go just to kind of monitor it, approve any new people, and then I'll post a topic that's relevant to the group. and then it starts another discussion. But because there's such active groups now, I don't have to do as much as I did when I first started the group. So again, comes down to how much time you have and how much you're willing to put into it and what you think your return is going to be from it. When you first start, if you've only got 100 followers, I probably wouldn't start a group until I had 1,000 followers on LinkedIn, or 500, unless it was such a totally unique group that nobody else has. And then do your keyword research and make sure it's something people would actually be interested in joining a group about, you know. So I think we're out of time, Rama. If you'd like to open up the lines to questions, and then if I can think of anything else to add, I will be happy to.
Sounds good. I know that we've had a number of people that have had to leave for various reasons. So I have unmuted everybody that's left, and we're down to 4 people. So if there are any questions, ask away.
Well, this is Mary, but I'll ask you privately because there are other people on who might need to know things.
Okay, no problem, Mary.
This is Lana Bain. I didn't have a question, but I just wanted to thank you for all of this great information, and I'm going to set my accounts up. I would definitely like to follow you, but thank you for taking your time to do this.
Oh, you're welcome, Lana. Nice to meet you. Hopefully we'll get to chat soon. I appreciate the feedback. And anytime you have a comment that I could use to constructively improve what I'm doing, please let me know, everybody, because, you know, some of this is, it's not that it's exactly off the cuff. I am using notes and stuff because I try to stay on some sort of a path as I'm doing this. But sometimes I do tend to ramble. So thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Oh,
Heidi.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rama.
Well, Heidi, I want to thank you again for fulfilling my request. I really think that this was a slightly different approach than what we've done before, and I think it was really helpful to everybody. So thanks very
Wonderful.
much.
You're quite welcome. My pleasure, and I'll talk to everybody soon. And if you have any questions for follow-up that you didn't think of, or you can let the group know that who was unable to stay, if they want to shoot me an email and ask me a question, what I will do is I will answer it, but I will post it on a group that I'll invite, or on the forum, so that everybody will get the answer. Or I'll send it to you to send to everybody. We'll figure that out. Okay, Rama?
Okay, and thanks again for everybody that took part. I think we learned an awful lot tonight. Thanks again.
Thanks so much, Heidi.
You're
Good
welcome.
talking to you.
All right, you too. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Heidi and Deb and Rama, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.